Hi, everyone. This is Audrey with Inkyma's Marketing Strategies, and today we have a really great treat for you. We are doing an interview today, so audio as well as video. So if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast, go run over to our website or go to YouTube, to our YouTube channel, and check out the video there. You can just, in both places, just look for Inkyma, that's INKYMA.com. So before I introduce our guest, I'm going to do what I normally do and talk about little housekeeping things. So we're going to probably be talking about past episodes, links to other sites, references, all this great stuff. Make sure you go check out the show notes. As usual, all the links are going to be in the show notes, both on the website and in YouTube to make your life easier. So with all of that, I would love to introduce you to my friend, Jen Draper, who is the owner of the Draper Group. And today we're going to talk to you about bank. So if you don't know what bank is now, you will, and you'll probably be like, how do I get that by the time we are done with this episode? So Jen, thanks so much for being on the podcast, the video podcast. I'm really glad that you're here, and you're actually the first person that I've done video podcasting with. I think it's perfect that it's me and you.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Of course. So tell us a little bit about bank, and then you're a trainer. You've trained me in bank, and so tell us a little bit about your qualifications and certification in that, so people understand, how cool this really is.
Sure. So bank's an acronym, and it stands for Blueprint, Action, Nurturing, and Knowledge. So how sometimes you're having a conversation with somebody, and then all of a sudden there's a disconnect. And it's like you can almost hear the relationship breaking. Usually that's because somewhere along the line, you've crossed values, right? So you're prioritizing one set of values and the other person is prioritizing a different set of values. And when we prioritize those different sets of values, we communicate in different ways. And so if I'm going along and I'm prioritizing fun, but you're prioritizing systems, we have this cross communication stream and it kind of breaks things. So bank is a way of learning how to communicate effectively with people the first time we meet them, so that we can get to know, like, and trust faster. And this is really effective in marketing, obviously, when you want to get to know, like, and trust with somebody as soon as possible. I'm a licensed and certified trainer with bank. The company's called Codebreaker Technologies. And I've been licensed and certified with them for about six and a half years now.
That's awesome. So the link to sign up for that is going to be in the show notes. So if anybody is interested in taking the course, and I'm also going to put a link to the book, because that's kind of where I started. Jen talked about it. I took the intro, I read the book, and I was like, Jen, I need this class. So just for everybody out there as business owners, the reason I did this is because, we build websites, we write copy all the time. And so what Jen has helped me do is to write copy for the different values and personalities, so that when they read it, it feels like our copy is speaking to them. And that's really important. But so Jen, that's kind of how I'm using it. How else would you recommend business owners use this?
So we see a lot of benefit for business owners, especially if they use any kind of interaction with humans, which is pretty much most business owners.
It's all of us.
Right? When Codebreaker actually went to a company and said, we need to get a valuation on the value of our intellectual property, insurance, and all those things, they came back and they said, we can't actually put a value on this because we can't figure out how to limit the audience. Literally everybody uses this. So this was originally created by a salesperson, Sherry Tree, for salespeople. And in the course of teaching this we're over 25 years now. Over the course of teaching this over 25 years, what we found is that salespeople get a great amount of benefit from this because they can get to know, like, and trust with their clients faster. And we've also found that business owners who teach this to their technicians and their customer service offices, they get
Ooh.
much better customer service ratings. We know that when business owners and people who've had this training, they take it home with them, all of a sudden their personal relationships get a lot better because they know how to most effectively communicate. They know what that other person is listening for, and they can now give that person what they need in order to make the decision they need to make.
Yeah, I remember that from the training when we were going through the different segments of, okay, here's a professional person, but who are your kids? Who are your spouses? And I remember that aha moment that I had was like, oh, okay. Yeah, now I know why, he acts that way and I can appreciate it better. I can do better things. So yeah, I remember that. Yeah, it's helped across many, many things. Um, so you mentioned sales teams, and I did a previous podcast where I talked about how marketing and sales are two sides of the same coin. They're not really competitors. Um, so from your perspective, how could a company implement something like Bank, not only for their marketing, but for their sales team, where they could, they could share content or structure?
So it's really important, right? When you have marketing and sales teams, that there is a fluidity between the marketing and the sales. You don't want marketing to be using one phrasing and one way of talking about the thing, and the sales guys using a completely different thing. It feels
Right.
very inauthentic, and it's a break. It's a mental break for the client, right? So we always want to make sure that we're being fluid across those arenas, right? What we're saying in marketing, we want our sales teams to also be saying. So it's important when your sales teams are getting training that you're also training your marketing teams on the same thing. What's cool about Bank is that once we teach you how to use this communication, pretty soon everybody's talking about things the same way because you know what you're aiming for. You know what you're looking for in your clients, and you know the most effective way to talk to them about your product, service, or good.
Yeah. And your marketing team, they're usually the ones that are writing the copy for the leave behinds and the forms and all the stuff that the sales team uses. They create the collateral. It would be great if, they all get trained together and the sales team knows why. Or they even get a cheat sheet that says, here's what we use for B's, here's what we're using for A's, here's what we're using for N's and K's. And it almost like, okay, that's what it is. And part of that I love because it's brand continuity, right? And I love brand continuity. It's not just about the logo or the type fonts, it's how you talk to the people. That's how they feel your brand, the phrases and the terminologies that you use. So that's really, really cool. I love that, making sure everybody's on the same page. And I bet the salespeople love it because they get more sales. I could see them coming back and going, hey, I want to tweak this language so that it works better for all of us.
So true. It's so true. And I love how you talk about the brand continuity, right? Because brand is really a conversation between your
I love that.
business and the clients, right? And it starts from that very first exposure they have to you, whether that's on marketing collateral or that's a conversation with a human being. And then the conversation continues, and it's this evolving, okay, you're hearing it in an email, you're seeing it in an advertisement, you're hearing it on the podcast. Now you're talking to a salesperson. And so that conversation really starts from that first exposure to the brand,
Right.
all the way through the client relationship to the
Yes.
very bitter end.
And what I love is when you get clients that mimic your brand language back to you. I've had a client do that where I was talking to a new person in the company and I rebranded that company like 2 years before. And he's like, well, we're this blah, blah, blah company. I'm like, I know you are because I wrote it.
When?
And then I emailed the COO and I said, dude, it's working.
That's
So that was
awesome.
an exciting one. Yeah. So I love for salespeople to be able to see that, or marketing people see that, like the client comes back with your messaging on their tongue because they've bought into the brand, right? I love that it's a conversation that you said that. It really is. It's just It's part of the language and the imagery and everything. So let me ask you this. If you have like examples of how companies have actually utilized bank in unique, fun, different ways, in sales and marketing, the audience here, they're big companies, little companies, sometimes they're solopreneurs. But I always like giving out examples because I think it helps inspire them.
One of my favorite clients is actually a locally owned HVAC company, so heating and cooling type things. And they hire me to come in about once every 2 years and train their techs, the people that are going into other people's homes on how to use bank in those homes. Because here's what we see. Techs are in the trades, especially, are very high knowledge individuals. So they're super smart, but they place a very high priority on information and data. And not everybody else does that. So when a tech goes to somebody's house and they're like, hey, you need a new heater. And here are your 3 heater options, and let me give you all of the tech details on these 3. There's a lot
Page by page. Yes, I've been there.
Yes, right?
Yeah.
Not everybody wants that, right? Not everybody wants that. In fact, some personality types don't want options at all. They expect you to be the expert and they want you to just make a recommendation. Right. We have 3 options for you. Let me tell you about the one I recommend for you. Here's the one I recommend for you. This is why it's best for your situation and it's going to fit in your budget. And then that personality style will be, that's the one I want, and it's done. Right? Some personalities want those options, but they don't want the details about the options. What they want to know is, here's my budget offering. Here's my, what most people get. And here's my VIP option. It's the latest and greatest. I think that's the right one for you. And that's all they want. They don't want all the details. They just want to know it's the VIP option. So you can see that's 2 completely different personality styles. If you know how to talk to them, you can get to know, like, and trust faster, build a relationship faster. Not only have you built a sale, but you've built a relationship that's going to allow you to continue to work with that customer long-term.
Absolutely. Which increases the lifetime value of that customer. You're selling them HVAC today, depending on what else you do in the future, you could just keep selling to them over and over again because they get that feeling of, this company gets me. The guy that comes and sees me, he's my pal, right? We talk the same language versus, the one guy that came to my house and fixed our lock and proceeded to tell me for 15 minutes how the lock worked. Oh, that was tough. I was getting ready to cut off my own hand just to have an excuse to stop.
There is a personality that wants all that information, but
absolutely,
most don't.
Well, and sometimes it's point in time, right? I mean, there are times where, and depending on the subject and point in time, I want details, and then other stuff, not so much. Yeah. So being able to kind of identify that, and we talked about that in training too. It's like, you may want knowledge in this situation, but not in this one. And then, like, how do you tell the difference with the person standing in front of you, being able to read those cues,
Yeah, and it's important to watch for those because in our system, we know that people aren't always the same, right? So just like you said, as my environment shifts, as the people I'm with shift, then the information that I'm going to respond to most effectively is also going to shift. Right. So I might need in a certain environment when I'm talking sales or something, maybe I need all of that data, but let's say I get a phone call from my child. All of a sudden, my needs have shifted and the kind of information I'm looking for is completely different. So it's important to notice those shifts. When I come off of that phone call, I may be back in the sales conversation, but I may have come back as a different personality because now I'm prioritizing different values.
Absolutely. Yeah. When your perspective on something has shifted when you get back into that. So how do you recommend, like, off the what kind of cues do you have people look for to figure out not only their main personality, right, but where they are at that moment in time?
right? So it's never our own personality in a communication environment. When we're trying to have a conversation with somebody, our own personality is not actually the most important. The personality of the person we're talking to is the one that's the most important. So how do you check those cues? So the initial perspective of what somebody, what personality, what values they're prioritizing, that initial perspective comes as they're walking up to you. And I'm looking at their shoes, I'm looking at their clothes. If I can see it, I'm checking out their car. One of the first questions I'm going to ask them is, what do you do for a living? Because what profession they're in is probably a reflection of the values that they prioritize most frequently. But I'm also going to listen to what's their tone, how they choose to talk, what are they choosing to talk about? All of those things are going to give me clues as to what values they're prioritizing right then, which lets me know which values I want to be communicating to.
Absolutely. And I love that you ask those questions like what profession they're in, because, when we do branding, we put together a customer persona. Jill, she's a 35-year-old professional and she does these things. And yes, I talk to myself in this voice as I'm creating them. Um, and what I've added based off of our training is I've added another column to that. What's their code, right? What is their average code? Meaning if we want them to buy these really, the company that's high-end slick sneakers that cost $250 a pair, but they're unique and stylish, who's the likely purchaser of that, right? And so we kind of put that in, and then we add their values to the list. So, they're high action for those sneakers. What are the things that they like? They like working out, they like dressing well, and then their value system associated to it. And that's how we're kind of starting to pull it in to talk to people when they're on the website, in digital advertising, in the newsletter, to figure it out. And then, like you had told us, it's like the code, the first and the last are the most important. So what do we talk to them about in the first spot, and what do we stay away from in the last spot?
We corporate Sherry actually did some training at a Ferrari dealership,
right?
And they were like, we know right away our two personality types are the high action, who really like the status symbols, and high knowledge, who really like the exquisite engineering, right? So it was really easy when they're doing their branding and they're doing their sales conversations. The only time they need to have that blueprint and nurturing piece is if the spouse comes in with them, and they may have to respond to a little bit of that. But the purchaser, the person who wants that car, action and knowledge. So you're not going to spend your marketing dollars talking to blueprint and nurturing when you know that your target market is those action and knowledge personalities.
And that's such an important point, because you got to spend your marketing dollars on the people that you want, that are most likely going to get the most enjoyment out of what you offer, or the best service.
Yoda, you're a bit
right.
player. Your
and
job
you know
is
what?
To get them to
secretly,
where they want to be.
We all love being Yoda.
Yeah.
So be the Yoda, people. Be the Yoda. I tell them that I talk to people about that all the time. But yes, definitely. All righty. So hopefully everybody who's listening is like, I need this. I got to have it, everything. Where do you recommend people to start? Right? Should they start with some training? Should they go to your basic training? Should they read the book? What should they do?
So it depends on your personality, right?
Right.
Don't you love that response? So some of you are going to be like, I just need to know some basic information before I make a decision. And for you, I would recommend you get the book, Why They Buy. It's a black cover, says Why They Buy across the front of it. Oops, there we go. Yes, Why They Buy. That's the book by Sherry Tree, Cheri. We do have it in a PDF format. So if you would rather read it digitally instead of having the hard copy book, we can do that.
Oh, nice.
So for people who want just a little bit more depth of data around that, you can get the book. For those of you that are like, I know I need to get to know, like, and trust faster. I know I need to be able to make that communication shift as quickly as possible, right? So if you're in the trades or you're in sales and you're like, I don't have time to read a book, I want to just go straight to the training. We have online training that's pre-recorded, virtual. It's a membership subscription. So when you're done, you're done. We have lots of options there. And then I offer virtual classes so you can have an actual instructor to talk about. We break the training up into 3 segments. So the very first class is called Fundamentals. And in Fundamentals, we're going to talk about the 4 personality types in depth. No kidding. Here's what's going on. This is what you need to know about the 4 types. In that class, we're going to give you the most relevant ways to talk to those people. Sales tips, we're going to give you relationship tips. We're going to talk about how do you, no kidding, get to know, like, and trust fastest with each of the 4 types. The second class we teach is speed coding. And in that class, we're going to teach you how to know what personality somebody is as they're walking up to you. It's a very experiential class. We do a lot of exercises in there. You're going to practice the skills that you're learning. And then our master level class, like, no kidding, I need to be able to do this really well, is called power scripting. And you're going to learn to talk about something, your product, your service, your good, your nonprofit cause. You're going to learn how to talk about something in exquisite detail in all 4 languages. And then we're going to do a 5th way of talking to them that incorporates all 4 languages in one so-called script, right? So each of those classes are different levels. I teach all of them. I'm certified to teach all of those classes. I do teach them online. I have a series that is going to be starting in the April timeframe.
Oh, cool. So I'll make sure I put all of that in there too. And then I can update things too to people if they come through and they're like, when's the next class? You know, we can certainly get that out to them. But yeah, I've loved the class so far. And just for everybody listening, is like, I'm in the middle of the master class, which is so fun for me. The funny thing is, remember during like power scripting, you had a couple of A personality types and it got a little competitive in there.
It was very entertaining, right?
It was. It was like, you know, I won. And their score was something that totally didn't exist, but it's okay. Doesn't matter that the math didn't work. You won. There you go.
Got those actions.
So,
got to win.
Yeah, got to win at all costs, no matter what. But they're fun and entertaining to be around for sure. Absolutely. Well, we're kind of getting to the end, believe it or not. We've actually been talking for quite a bit of time here. Any final thoughts, takeaways, things that you want to leave people with?
I think the number one thing that I like to remind people, if you take nothing else away from this conversation, please, please, please meet people where they are. Don't talk to them like they're you, because they're not. We're all unique. We're all individual. Talk to them where they are. Meet them where they are. Connect with them where they are. It's the most important thing you can do to help your conversations get better.
That is so true. Regardless if it's you're trying to sell to them or just make another business partner, right? Which are really, really important. Well, Jen, thanks so much for being on. It was great spending this time with you and sharing bank with everybody else. I hope they're as excited about it as I am. It was a real game changer for me and my business. So I wanted to make sure we got that out there.
Awesome. Thanks so much for having me on. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. Okay, I'm going to do my little close now. All right, everybody. Here at Inkyma, we like to give back to you in the business community. So if you go to the website, inkyma.com, that's INKYMA.com, in the upper right-hand corner, you can schedule a 45-minute free consultation with me. We'll do a video call like this. I'll record it for you if you want to, and you can talk about whatever you want. Maybe you want to ask me questions about bank or about story brand or about your website or figuring out how you talk to people without talking about yourself first. Or maybe you just want to talk about digital ads. Whatever you want, those 45 minutes are yours. So again, go to the website, click on the link, schedule your time, and we are on the calendar. If you have a quick question or if you have a suggestion for a show, I always love the suggestions. Go down to the contact form. I get all of those emails and I respond to them. So hopefully you found this inspiring, enlightening, something that you want to do. But more importantly, if you think it's really valuable, share it with the rest of your business community, right? This is how we lift each other up and become a really great, robust business community all across the country, all across the world. So thanks so much for listening and watching, and have an amazing day.